Hello, my name's James Clegg. I work for the University of Edinburgh's Talbot Gallery, and I'm the curator of the exhibition Pine's Eye. Pine's Eye is a large group exhibition featuring the work of 12 international artists. As the exhibition has been closed due to the 2020 pandemic, I've decided to make a series of short videos that explore the work of each of these 12 artists in turn. This week we're going to look at the work of Laurent Grasso. We're showing a series of his paintings called Studies into the Past and his film Otto. When I had the pleasure of meeting Laurent, he told me that he saw himself as a kind of time traveller, that he used his work as a kind of portal into these other eras and other ways of looking at the world. And for his painting series Studies into the Past, this required him to meticulously learn techniques from the 15th and 16th centuries. So the paintings that we're showing are painted by Laurent by hand, and he's basing these paintings upon a scientific analysis of the techniques that artists would have used back in that period, a period that coincides with what we call the Renaissance. And I think this attention to detail with these works is really important because they have to exude this quality of being like relics or like being material culture from another time and place. So that when Laurent then paints in these other objects, these strange phenomenon, we are taken aback, we feel displaced, we feel that our sense of progress and linear history has been somehow disrupted or warped. I think it's important to remember that objects from the past don't just show us the world as it used to be. What they actually show us is how people used to construct representations of the world around them. They show us how people used to visually organize space. And when I say visually organize, I mean thinking through the priorities of what it is they want the spectator to look at, how they want the spectator to feel as the person observing this particular scene or this landscape as it might have been. So it's actually more complex than just feeling that we're looking into the past. What we're actually doing is being guided through a set of different frameworks into how the past was constructed. And history itself often works in this way. It often reframes things and recontextualizes things so that our knowledge of the past becomes this kind of meshwork of different perspectives and different value systems. When it comes to the Renaissance, for example, a lot of our ideas about how the Renaissance developed and the things that it prioritized came from a lot of 19th century readings when the subject of history was effectively invented and people started to use these sort of narrative descriptions of progress and development. So our ideas about the Renaissance themselves have been kind of skewed through various histories. The emphasis on individuality, the emphasis on progress. And I think really importantly with this work, the Renaissance emphasis on rationality. In his book, The Myth of Disenchantment, Jason A. Josephson Storm argues that this idea that we have that somehow magic and myths and superstitions have been expunged through the Enlightenment and through these modern events that ostensibly take us towards a more kind of logical, advanced state of civilization are actually myths in their own right. That in fact lots of so-called rational thinkers, enlightened thinkers, scientists have often held supernatural beliefs alongside the discoveries that they've made. This enchantment hasn't ever really gone away. Or to put this another way, I think what Laurent is doing is kind of reopening doors to explore our readings of these different eras and as a result, our readings of ourselves as well, thinking of the way that our history informs who we are today and how we act in the world. Laurent seems to be able to work into these cracks and start to pull them apart a little bit, so that we see that in fact these linear trails of history could open out to all these other readings and all these other voices as well. And there's something quite political really in the consequences of this. I think we're at quite an important stage at the moment where people are reassessing the histories that we're told. So to allow it to become more open, to allow it to kind of resonate, is really important. And this is something that continues throughout Laurent's work. I think he's really aiming to create a sense of mystery, and he doesn't want to resolve or shut down or lock out that mystery. He wants to retain it and allow that to be part of our engagement with the world. As part of his effective time travel, he likes to also take objects from one artwork and place them into another. So the spheres that we see in Studies into the Past are actually taken from a film called Otto. Otto was filmed in the Aboriginal lands of Australia, and Laurent worked with the Walpiri people to make this film. This includes the elder Otto Jungarare Sims, who is the traditional owner of the land. The spheres guide us through this landscape, and they represent secret stories, things that are not just hidden from the drone footage that we see, but from our Western point of view. And it's hard to unlock this culture, the Walpiri culture, because its languages are so different and so difficult to translate. Central to their belief system is something called the dream time. And this is a special kind of belief that runs through law and society, as well as a kind of religious belief within this culture. A Western academic described it as being an idea about an every-when, everything happening at once, not a past, a present, and a future, but everything happening at once. This work's title refers to two Ottos, the traditional owner of the land, as I've mentioned, but also the German scientist Winfried Otto Schumann. Schumann became well known for predicting these low resonance frequencies that kind of circulate around the globe between the surface of the Earth and the ionosphere. Their interest, I think, in the context of this artwork is that Schumann was able to mathematically predict this background radiation before anyone could empirically prove that it existed. So in a sense, it shows us the way that science itself moves through a process of a kind of a movement into mystery, a movement through into the unknown, the unexplored. And in a way, through its own systems, it does this through a sense of faith, a hope to later prove, later establish that something really exists. And so I think the ties between this indigenous knowledge and this sort of history of science, this chapter of science, is really interesting in the way that it starts to meld and merge together. But I think what Laurent is doing here by presenting us with these enigmas, by these cryptic images, by these images that kind of escape our ability to fully comprehend the meaning of them. I think what he's doing is setting up a situation in which there is a kind of a resonance about what we're seeing, what we're witnessing. There is this kind of additional energy that exceeds our usual rational expectations for what we can take and what we can understand from a place. And if we're wanting to get outside of ourselves, if we're wanting to get outside of the mindset that we've inherited from the past, from this past that is fixated on progress and discovery and conquest and ownership, then I think in a way we have to also open ourselves up to this mystery, to this magic, to this otherness that might ultimately change us for the better.